Welcome to Reddit Blue Pill Red Pill, where we go over Reddit stories and predict the outcome of the stories. Please listen and play along by typing in your choices into the comments. There are 5 seconds to answer, or you can pause the video. Today we have a story about a woman whose husband held a secret. All right, let's get on to the story.
There's a lot to this, and it's all newly revealed to me, so I'm still processing, and I'm sure I'll be all over the place. I'm so angry about all this. My husband's sister adopted a child 4 years ago. She had talked before about being a single mom by choice, and when her friend had a child she didn't want to raise, she said it made sense to step in and offer to become the baby's mom. Everyone was supportive and welcomed the child into the family.
The story starts off with the OP writing that her husband's sister adopted a child that another friend had and was going to give up for adoption. Her sister-in-law stepped up to become the legal guardian of the child, since she had mentioned how she had wanted to be a mother and this was her chance to fulfill that dream. But the situation she is getting involved in is very tough. When people adopt through the usual means, people are adopting the children of strangers. There is no prior link between the would-be parent and the parent giving their child up for adoption. So there is a clear break after the adoption goes through, and there is an expectation of privacy for all involved. But in this case, the sister-in-law is taking care of the child of a friend. What if the friend regrets her decision in the future and wants her child back? Since they know each other, then the friend would know how to get in contact with the sister-in-law or contact their friends and family. There is no longer an expectation of privacy since all parties involved know each other and share social circles. What if the sister-in-law runs into the friend while walking about town? Will they ignore each other and not be friends anymore? The sister-in-law is doing a noble thing, and she also gets to fulfill a desire she has with a child that is in need. What do you think? If you would object to the sister-in-law adopting this child in this situation, type Q1 red in the comments. If you agree with the sister-in-law and would be supportive, type Q1 blue.
2.5 years ago, my husband's sister was diagnosed with MS. She unfortunately declined rapidly and asked us to take in her child, and we agreed. We had not yet had children of our own at that point, which made it easier. We made sure she still spends time with her child, and she asked that we continue raising the child, and I'm saying the child to keep anonymity, no matter how bad she gets / if she dies. We agreed.
The sister-in-law's health declined, and she and her adopted child are now living with the OP and her husband. Not only that, but the sister-in-law asked the couple to take care of the child if anything were to happen to her, and the OP and husband agreed. The couple aren't just taking care of the child, but of the sister-in-law, since she seems too weak to take care of herself. It is very noble of the OP and husband to take in not only the sister-in-law, but her child into their home, and also agreed to take care of the child if anything were to happen to the sister-in-law. That is a very serious obligation to take on, and I commend them for stepping up. But I also wouldn't criticize them if they had not accepted. Accepting to take care of a child for the rest of their life is no small task, especially considering that the couple may want their own kids in the future. What do you think? Would you accept to take care of a dying sibling's child even though you know the child was originally adopted and not blood-related? If so, type Q2 blue in the comments. If you would help the sister and child, but would not accept becoming their parent if the sister were to pass, type Q2 red.
My husband never acted weird around the child, never acted like he had some secret. He acted like an uncle willing to step in and raise his sister's child. Recently, his sister confessed to me that my husband was the biological father of this child. She said my husband and her best friend used to hook up occasionally, and he did it again right before we got married, and this child is the result of his infidelity. I was sick. She told me she couldn't keep lying to me because eventually it would come out, and she wanted to minimize the damage. I confronted my husband and he denied it, so I asked him to do a DNA test.
Wow, I did not see that coming. But this explains some things. It explains why the sister was willing to step in and adopt a child from a friend when she really didn't need to.
It seemed fishy why the sister would step up in such a way. Even if it was her best friend who wanted to give up the child, either the husband asked her sister to secretly adopt the child, or the sister took it upon herself to adopt the child because she didn't want her nephew to be adopted by strangers and never be heard from again. But the husband is denying everything. But then, why would the sister make up such a wild story, especially since the OP and her brother are basically taking care of her and the child? She is in a very vulnerable position, but still chose to confess. Who do you believe? If you believe the sister that the child belongs to her brother, then type Q3 red in the comments. If you don't believe the sister, then type Q3 blue.
He's the father. There's no doubt. DNA confirmed he's the biological father. He told me nothing happened since we were married, and he loves me, and he's sorry for what he did. He said it was a drunk night before our wedding, and he would never do something like that again. Then he said we wanted to be a family and offered to adopt his child and raise them as our own. He told me this doesn't have to end us.
So it is confirmed that the child does belong to her husband and the sister was saying the truth. The deceit by not only the husband but the sister is beyond belief. While it's true the sister eventually fessed up, she still originally knew everything and was going to take this secret to her grave if it wasn't for her getting sick and needing help taking care of herself and her adopted child. She knew all along that her brother was a cheater and the child would be part of the family's life, while the husband would pretend he wasn't their father, but only the uncle. That is diabolical. How can you just pretend your child is not your own? And the audacity to ask the OP to forgive him and adopt the child and be a family? Would you consider it? The husband obviously cheated beforehand, but maybe they were on a break and that is how he got the friend pregnant? And it's been 4 years, and if the husband has been faithful the entire marriage, maybe this is something they can get over. What would you do? If you would accept the child and try to be a family, type Q4 blue in the comments. If you would not accept and divorce the husband, type Q4 red.
I left the house and have been staying with my sister since the DNA results. I'm disgusted and I don't want to sign up for this. I know that baby is innocent, but I now can only see what my husband did, and I cannot imagine raising them and acting at their mom and keeping my husband in my life. My husband's sister has reached out to apologize multiple times, and she told the rest of their family the truth also. My husband's parents have tried to contact me to get me back to my husband. They have told me I have a family now and I can't leave, and especially not with their daughter unable to raise this baby again. I had to block them because their messages were blaming and shaming me more and more for not agreeing to marriage counseling and moving forward as a family.
The rest of the family initially didn't know about the deception, but after finding out, they are shaming the OP into marriage counseling and saying how she signed up to be a family with her husband and can't leave now. But wasn't the husband the one who first broke up the family to begin with? He had a child out of marriage and hid it away from the OP for 4 years. I wonder, if the shoe were on the other foot, would the husband forgive and take care of a child that wasn't his and was hidden from him for 4 years? It's easy to say forgive and forget when it's you who did the wrong deed, but if the situation were reversed, they wouldn't be so happy to forgive and forget. What do you think? The transgression happened before the OP and her husband were married, and now that they are married, do they have to stay together through thick and thin, until death do them part? If you think the OP should honor her wedding vows and save the family, type Q5 blue in the comments. If you think the husband was the first one to break their vows and the OP no longer has any obligation to stay with her husband, type Q5 red.
I don't see a way back from this, but I have been in this child's life since birth and raised them for more than a year and a half. I just know I could never be a good mom to them knowing what I know. Am I the a-hole for wanting to divorce and walk away?
Now we come to the conclusion on the story, and we'll decide if the OP is the a-hole in this situation. The OP had unknowingly been raising her husband's child for the last year and a half, and loved the child beforehand to accept becoming their mother if something happened to the sister-in-law. But her feelings for the child have changed after the revelation, and she can't see herself loving that child anymore, even though the child is totally innocent in all of this. What do you think? Is the OP an a-hole for wanting to divorce her husband and walk away from the child? If so, type Q6 red in the comments. If you think the OP is not the a-hole in this story, type Q6 blue. Now let's listen to a few comments.
I can't imagine how you feel right now. Just the utter betrayal and them all expecting you to be fine with it all is insane.
I'd feel so much disgust and hurt that this was kept from me. It would have hurt either way once he cheated, but I could have walked away, and far easier since we weren't married yet. But this went on so much longer and got far deeper. He's a father to someone else's child, a child he fathered days before our wedding.
Don't forget that his sister and probably the rest of his family knew as well. To berate you for leaving is crazy. Move on and don't look back. He does not deserve you. Continue to be no contact forever with any of the screeching, flying family monkeys or friends who tried to guilt, bully, gaslight, or manipulate you into changing your mind and accepting the situation. Deal with him only through your lawyer.
Not the a-hole. He can look after his own child and his family can help. I would never get over that betrayal.
I can't see a way to get past it either. The disgust I feel about everything that's happened only gets worse the longer I sit with it.
A friend of mine had a minor scandal in her family a few decades ago. Her uncle used to travel to Malaysia for business a lot. At some point, he suggested to his wife to adopt a child from there. They didn't have any of their own, so many poor kids living there in poverty, so they flew over together to meet a boy up for adoption. The wife, or so the story goes, took one look at this toddler, turned to her husband, and said, "Do you think I'm stupid? That's your son." Turned around, booked an earlier flight home, and filed for divorce. I never met that woman, but I always admired her self-respect.
Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for watching all the way to the end and participating. Please consider liking and subscribing to watch future videos. Goodbye.